Boom, baby. We are live. Welcome to Interview with a Man, episode 283, where I am joined by another Ryan who is also a guy who is very well versed in hypnosis and clearing mental trauma, specifically for men. He is a guy who started off as a student in body language mastery last year, less than a year ago, and has transformed his life in quite a phenomenal way. Everybody welcome Mr. Ryan Christensen. Ryan, welcome. Good morning, sir.
Thanks a lot, man. Glad to be here.
So let's talk about it. We looking at you from the outside, you're a good looking guy. You do well for yourself financially. You're not a dummy, and you kind of had your seduction life above average for sure. But what did a guy like you, like, how did you kind of find this corner of the internet, and what was it? How did that all happen?
So I actually got started in the red pill stuff back a ways ago, around like 2008, 2009. I started looking at a lot of the seduction community stuff, the pickup artist stuff, and read Rollo's books back then. And as a result, got a lot more success with women. I was doing much more of like the kink and BDSM and swinging scene here in DC ever since I moved here in 2004, which is very different from your traditional dating scene. A lot more opportunity, a lot more freedom, a lot more people who are just like willing to go there. And just the whole atmosphere is revolving around sex and pleasure and hedonism and everything else. So it was really kind of easy. The thing that that tripped me up, that trips up a lot of guys that get into the pickup side of things and don't actually do a lot of the self-improvement and unfuck their own mental models and really kind of get that old programming out of their head, is I came across the most beautiful woman that I'd ever seen, managed to pick her up, managed to date her, and we ended up getting married and getting into a relationship. But I fell back into all... Yeah. And it was, we were together for 6.5, almost 7 years, but I fell back into all the same patterns, all the same loops, doing all the same mistakes that I always used to make in relationships, giving up too much of who I was, giving up too many of my hobbies, not pursuing excellence, not staying on top of my game, not staying on top of my fitness and everything else. And that's that betaization by 1,000 cuts, right? And it was so shocking to me when I finally got myself out of that situation, when I told her to leave, when I filed for divorce, and started getting back on my feet, like how far I had slid back, because I hadn't done that internal work to actually unfuck my mental models and actually get myself over all the hurdles and all the junk that had accumulated through my life. So I started doing a lot of the self-improvement work, right? And that's what got me to guys like you and to Ryan Stone, getting back, talking with Rollo, hanging out with Rich on his channel and his group. And the focus that you guys have on just taking care of yourself and getting yourself right, making money, making muscles, learning game, was so clear that I hadn't done that work. So even though I'd had success because of the environment that I was in, the fact that I was a fairly good looking guy that wasn't a complete retard, because I hadn't done that work, when I left that scene to go dating in the real world with everybody else, where those advantages weren't around, where I didn't have that pre-built environment, where it's all about the sexiness and the hedonism and all that sort of thing and the exploration, I was really under the gun. I wasn't having any success at all. I couldn't get hardly any dates. I was getting the dates that I was going on weren't going well at all. Couldn't build that rapport, couldn't build that connection, couldn't really move things forward. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
What was like the biggest hurdle you saw yourself encountering?
A lot of it was, how to put it? I've always been an introvert and a geek and a nerd and everything else, right? Like, I'm a gamer. I've been that way, been a computer guy from the beginning of time. So trying to come up with stories, right? Warhammer 40K, competitive player, top 100 in the world, baby. Like, I enjoy that stuff. It's a lot of fun for me.
Hell yeah.
But trying to connect with women on that basis, stuff that they're just not into. It's like, okay, cool. So what do I have going on in my life? Well, I got a job that I can't really talk about. I don't work out, don't do a lot of travel. The travel that I'm doing is for mostly Warhammer tournaments. Like, I just didn't have a whole lot going on. So trying to spike the interest and hook them and actually try and bring them in to show them how awesome I was incredibly difficult.
You don't work out? Or you work out now, don't you?
Now I do. Yeah, definitely I do. Back then, I'm the the kind of guy that never really worked out. You know, of course, I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years, and you're working out all the time there, but it was never really part of my identity. It was something that I did because I felt I had to do it rather than part of my identity. I do martial arts a lot, right? I did karate for a number of years. I did some judo, some jiu-jitsu, some Filipino martial arts, and that was a lot of fun.
Eskrima?
It's actually Kali, which is in the same family as the Eskrima and Arnis. Cool. So a lot of stick and knife stuff, some grappling, lots of fun. Really, really cool. It's kind of like jazz. It's awesome that way. Very improvisational. Love it.
Sweet.
But because of like logistics and everything else, it's like an hour and a half to get into school to go train after I moved out to you know, the suburbs, because my client moved their office and I was going to commute an hour and a half each way for work every day.
Oof,
you know,
brutal.
Big city living, right? So I moved out to be closer to my client's office so I could have an 8-minute commute there, but that meant that I had to sacrifice everything else, right? So you're in this position where it's like, okay, you know you're awesome, you know you've got a lot of things going on, you know you're fairly good looking, but you just can't freaking bridge that gap. You can't get anybody to see that from the outside looking in, right? And that was an incredibly difficult thing for me. But that's what brought me to things like body language mastery. Of like, okay, I could tell that you knew what you're doing with women. You and I have very different styles, obviously, very different people. But I could tell that you knew what you're doing. I could tell that you knew how to market yourself and bridge that gap. I'm like, okay, cool. That guy has the information that I need to figure out how to solve this problem. And ever since getting into body language mastery in Q3 last year, like exponential changes, right? Like massive. And granted, like, I know you didn't really recognize this or see it at first, but I can be a kind of a stubborn guy. So it kind of takes me getting hit in the head a few times before it really sinks in.
It really just went over my head, the whole stubbornness part.
You know what? It's very subtle. It's very, very subtle. But, you know, when you have a bunch of guys and it's like, no, like, this is your problem. Like, you have to get over this. Like, you have to fix this. Like, this is the thing that's in your way. Eventually, you just start to learn how to surrender to the process, right?
Do we want to talk about the vest?
I almost wore one today just to play with you, just to fuck with you.
I think you look great in the vest, but it just, the girl said, I don't know. But you said some girl recently liked the vest, right?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of girls who do. And then part of it was just the fact that the photos that I was using, and because I didn't have my body right, because my clothes weren't tailored, and because all that stuff wasn't actually on point, didn't actually show off what a vest can do, because a vest is a very structured thing, can really give you that sort of like the illusion of the V taper and everything else. Yeah. But you got to wear it right and you got to have it tailored and everything else. And I flat out didn't. And there's a lot of stuff, a lot of little tricks like that, that if you're not in the game and you don't really look at stuff that closely, you miss. So you're walking through life thinking, I've got things on point, and then somebody walks up to you who knows what they're doing, says, no, you're doing this wrong and 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 this wrong. It's like, fuck, I'm just a complete mess. And you have no idea if you're not really familiar with this stuff. And that's what, you know, body language mastery and guys like you are really good at doing. And the crew that we've assembled in there is just phenomenal at being able to pick those different things apart.
Yeah, I think it's just really good. Body language mastery, let's talk about that real quick, right?
Sure.
When I made the course, you know, the veterans that came in from Q1, I mean, it was so ghetto because it was on Google Hangouts, right?
Right.
And that was on Google Hangouts. You could only have 9 people enter at a time because 10 was the max.
Right.
And then to top it off, when I had a guest, there was only 8 people allowed in there. And so the webinar Q&A thing was supposed to just supplement the course. That was supposed to be what it was, right? Like, here's the backbone of the course, and if you have questions, you know, I just thought if they happen to have questions, I'll just give them time of day. I don't really mind. But then the outpour of guys were like, I need to talk to you. I want to talk to you. I want to, I had no idea that was even it. So then I upgraded to Zoom the next quarter, because I kind of thought Q1, I said that was kind of a fluke. I said I had a bunch of signups. I said probably not going to get that many signups next time. Q2 broke the record. Q3, when you also broke the record. Q4 broke the record. Q1 this year broke the record. And then right now in Q2, as of this moment, somebody just signed up for Body Language Mastery right now. Actually, thank you to Sergio C, who just signed up.
Nice.
We have 137 people, and we are just entering the beginning of day 4. The procrastinators have not even made their purchases yet, which I know a bunch of these guys are going to be signing up.
Oh, yeah.
But the coaching and the talking and like meeting people in real life, like, you know, when even you flew from the East Coast all the way to Arizona where we hung out
Yeah.
and for Hot Dude Con, and I didn't know that men were thirsting for this masculine companionship in a group of guys that want to become above average, and it's really
Well,
really great.
I'll tell you, like having to walk away from the kink scene and everything else just because it had become a very toxic environment's not the right word, but it definitely changed. It became way more political and way more woke and just wasn't focused on the things I wanted anymore, right? And having to walk away from that and leave a lot of the friend groups I had, you know, after having gotten divorced and losing that whole social support network, like you get kind of lost and it's very easy to be isolated. And it's very difficult as men these days to actually find good people to be around. You know, they got that whole saying of like, you know, you are the average of the 5 people closest to you. And there's a lot of truth to that, right? Because you need those reflections back from the people around you to help see what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. You need that support network. And if you can't find it in real life, well, online is really the only place you can do it. And, you know, getting back to Warrior 40K, I could see that on the competitive side where you've got these masses of people who are playing the game kind of casually and they've got their own like ideas of like, oh, well, it should be this way, or this should be the way things work. And I want the game to work this way. And then you got the guys who are like really, really good on the competitive side, who are looking at it's like, this is the rule set. These are the missions. These are the ways you win the game. So fuck all the rest of it. Like, this is what we actually have to do to win. These are how things actually work. And getting in and doing some coaching with guys like that just on the game side really kind of showed me how getting in with a good group of guys who know their stuff on how to improve their lives, on how to be better with women, on how to be better with fitness, on how to be better with business, massive improvements, you know. And when it's a closed community where people have actually invested to get in and they're invested in those results, huge difference in the outcomes. But body language mastery is actually part of why is the reason why I got into hypnosis to begin with. Because, you know, Ryan Fowler was in that Q3 and ended up doing a presentation on, you know, overcoming trauma. And that really resonated with me. Like, I grew up as middle-class Midwest white boy, right? Came from a good home, nothing really big on that, but it was also a home with a lot of emotional instability, you know. Everybody's kind of on a hair trigger all the time. And I became that quintessential nice guy. You know, I'm a good Catholic boy from the Midwest, you know, never had any problems. And I became the quintessential nice guy. And that really gets in your way when you're always worried about what everybody thinks, when you're always worried about pleasing the other person, and you're always ready to sacrifice the things that are valuable to you to try and make your partner happy, make your girlfriend happy, make whoever you're with happy. Like, that becomes a huge burden.
How long was that? Like, how long was that pushed into you? Like, you need to basically self-sacrifice for everybody else.
My entire life, more or less, realistically speaking, right? Even up to like, so I did the session with Ryan last October, I think. So I've been like 43 years in, you know, and I had gone to, you know, see traditional therapists for, there's one guy I've been seeing off and on for about a decade. You know, really? I had a major depressive. Yeah. Well, I had a major depressive episode and just like completely fell the fuck apart because of a lot of stuff going on in my life. And talked to 3 or 4 different therapists before I found one that really worked with that, you know, that I really clicked with. And he helped me kind of put myself back together over the course of about a year or 2. And so that traditional therapy was really, really powerful and incredibly important, especially if you're in a crisis. Go see someone because they actually know how to help you come through that mess and put yourself back together. And that's huge. But the problem is that no matter how many times we talked and no matter how much work I did, like, I never really got to that deep core issue of just not being enough, not seeing myself as enough, about feeling like I can't connect, you know, things like that, that I'm different from everybody else. So nobody's ever going to like me, that kind of thing. Right. And it wasn't until I worked with Ryan and got in there and cleared out that emotional baggage that it actually freed up enough space for me to make the changes I needed. Because it's like you're trying to swim with a 100-pound pack on your back, right? You're just going to struggle just to keep your head above water. But as soon as you dump your thing, well, all of a sudden you can float better. You can breathe. You've got space. You've got room. You've got the energy to actually make motion towards where you want to go. And that was massive for me, just getting rid of that. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. Because I had done some hypnosis with the therapist I work with, and it had helped, but it was somewhat generic. And kind of back up. There's a number of different techniques in hypnosis, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the ones is called indirect, and essentially because your subconscious mind, which is the part of your brain that processes emotion and memory and everything else, because that works mostly on emotion and symbolism and story, then what you can do is once you get somebody into that trance state, you can just tell a story. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, there was one where I was having trouble, like kind of moving on and doing the things I needed to do to get to the next level. So, got me in a trance, and we did a story about cleaning out your closet, and how, like, you're going through cleaning out your closet, and there's clothes that you've loved forever, and they're your favorite, your favorite shirt pair, favorite pair of pants, but they just don't fit anymore. They're just not the right size. They're just not the right style. And so it's okay to take those out and set them aside. And once you do, well, now you have space in your closet to add new things, right?
Yep.
And just that metaphor of it being okay to let go of stuff that's been important to you in the past, so that you can make space for stuff that's new in your life, that can be enough to change somebody's life and actually give them that sense that it's okay to move on. There's others that are more direct, where you're going in and you're actually confronting the actual trauma, or you're doing things like, hey, you're going to go exercise 5 times a week, and this is what you're going to do. And those things can be very powerful because, again, you're talking to that subconscious mind where all of those like unconscious habits and all the stuff you're doing on autopilot, all that stuff resides. If you get into this to the guys that are talking about how to change your habits, like James Clear wrote that book, Atomic Habits, one of the things that they'll talk about is something called the elephant rider problem, right? Where your conscious mind, your actual intentions, is the rider on an elephant. And your actual ability to influence where that elephant wants to go is somewhat limited. You can say, I want to go off that way, right? But if the elephant wants to go left and you want to go right, your ability and your power to actually make that elephant go right is very, very limited. Mm-hmm. And in that metaphor, the elephant is your unconscious mind, your subconscious mind, where you've already built up all those habits of action throughout your life. So because hypnosis works on the level of that subconscious mind, you're basically talking directly to the elephant. So you can go in and you can have those conversations of like, hey, yeah, I know we've been going left, but it's time to go right. And it's like, well, why were you going left? You can figure that out and actually come up with new ways to make them go right. And if the elephant's heading in the direction you want it to, well, then everything becomes easier. So I saw that and saw how powerful that was. And because I was in a place in my life where I was looking to make a change professionally, from doing sort of like running around trying to save the world to doing something with more of an individual impact. And again, body language mastery and hanging out with guys like in Rich Krupa's group and seeing the power of having that individual impact one-on-one, man-to-man, like I realized that was a direction that I needed to go with my life. So I actually considered going back and getting my PhD, but that's like 6 years of work.
Yeah.
Whereas with hypnosis, I can actually get certified in that and start working with people, making lives better now, as opposed to waiting for 6 years.
That's good, because with that's why I didn't pursue further education with my psychology degree, because quite frankly, they want you to push drugs on people. Did they push drugs on you in your session for your
No,
professor?
they never did.
Thank God.
They never did. Yeah.
Thank God. A big part of that business model, it's the 12-week model, right? 12 weeks of therapy plus drugs. Did they offer drugs to you and you were like, I don't want to take them? Or
no, they never did. Like I said, I went through 3 or 4 therapists before I found the guy that I started working with. And one guy was heavy about it up at the beginning. I said, that's not the way I play. That's not what I want. Like, I'm not broken, right? Like, I'm not chemically imbalanced. Like, I've just got a lot of shit going on.
How old were you when this happened?
Oh God, I was like mid-30s, early 30s. Yeah, it's like 34
now.
44.
44.
Yeah, cool. This is about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not. And thanks for mentioning. I know you probably didn't even intend to do this, but I've actually been meaning to buy Atomic Habits, and you just brought it up right then. I just bought it right now because my Audible credit came in. But yeah,
it's a great book. It's a phenomenal book. Really.
I've been hearing a lot of it, and some people have been recommending it to me. And then the fact that you just mentioned it now, I was like, oh yeah, let me just go get this over with. Yeah, I think there's a lot of shit that's fucked up in primarily America with the men and women fulfilling their gender roles. Like,
Yeah.
I think that society, I mean, I know, if you take a look at the history of society, we got to where we are by men being men and women being women. And quite frankly, America is trying to switch those roles. And that's why a lot of things are so fucked up in the country. And
Well,
I
there's
think,
more. There's even more to it than that, really. One of the things that there's a book called Bowling Alone that was talking about kind of the collapse of our civic institutions, right? Where you used to have things like sports teams. Everybody's on a sports team. Everybody's on a bowling team. Everybody like went to the, Kiwanis Club or whatever it was, right? There were all these different institutions, churches and so forth and so on, where you would come together as groups, and that would actually solidify the community, right?
Mhm.
And those things supported those shared values and those shared roles, and that's actually where a lot of people used to get their advice.
Mhm.
Part of the reason why you've got such a boom in like counselors and therapists and coaches and everything else is because used to be, if you had a problem, you just go see the village priest or the village elders, or you go talk to your uncle or something like that. Well, none of those resources are available anymore because we become so atomized as a society, right?
Mhm.
And you can talk about, feminism and Marxism and communism and everything else and all these different technological changes that have push that. But the fact that we have disintegrated in terms of nuclear family, the fact that we have disintegrated in terms of becoming much more individual, much more atomized, means that all of those support networks that used to be there to help us become like healthy, well-adjusted individuals and healthy, well-adjusted families aren't there anymore.
Mhm. Yeah.
So you have to go to a therapist now to unfuck yourself as opposed to having a beer with your buddies, right?
Yeah. Or just go have a talk with grandpa. You know,
Exactly.
like, a grandpa
Exactly.
feeling sad. He'd be like, "Why don't you stop being such a pussy?" He'll hit you with his 1911 that he killed people with in the war.
Exactly. And sometimes that's really all you need is just to suck it up and make it happen, right? Because
Dude,
that's a lesson that people don't get. Yeah, that people don't get these days.
family. What people seem to misunderstand in America.
Hmm.
I know you're pretty well traveled. Are you a polyglot? I know you speak Russian, but you speak English,
I do. I speak
Russian.
Russian. I speak English. I speak Russian. A little bit of Ukrainian. I've studied Japanese. Don't really have much of that anymore. I know enough
Mhm.
Spanish to get myself in a fight. I know a bit of Tagalog from doing the Filipino martial arts stuff. Know a
Mhm.
little bit of French and a little bit of German from doing those travels.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And it looks like
absolutely.
our buddy Dippin is in the house. Says good work. Your channel is
Yeah.
amazing, Dippin. Thank you, Dippin. Stop
Hope
sending
you're
me those
doing well.
crazy. Yeah, stop sending me those fucking crazy emails telling me you're gonna kill yourself. That's not Dippin. You need to sign up for Body Language Mastery.
Definitely, man. We'll get you taken care of. You get in there.
Get in. Click on the link. Sign up. Um, Jack Travers was really good. He says drugs is like applying plaster to a cut. Yikes! That's so
Oh
deep.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, the thing is, like, there are some people who need it, right?
I
But
agree.
the percentage of people, God, what is Ryan Stone talks about like psychosis and everything else being that like third standard deviation, so like 1% of the population that actually needs the drugs, right?
Yes.
It's a very small portion of it that actually needs the drugs. But because
Yes.
everybody's going to a therapist or a psychiatrist to get their problems solved, and that's the model that they use to treat people, way more people are getting the drug treatment than just talking through their problems, right? Because there's definitely people who need it, right? There's people who need to be on antipsychotic medications. There's people who need to be on antidepressants, right? And quite frankly, if you're in crisis and you are in serious trouble, that can be a bridge to where you need to be. That can be enough to help you get over your problem or manage it enough that you can actually make the changes and do the work that you need, right? So it
Yeah.
can be that bridge. But too many people use it as a cope. Way too many
Yeah.
people use it to cope.
I used to work in the medical device industry, and so it
Hmm.
kind of shares parallels with the pharmaceutical industry. And I've talked with a lot of guys who were in compliance, and I
Yep.
remember I was hanging out with some Swedish guy in a bar in Tokyo in 2017, and I remember I was a complete stranger with this guy, and like we were just drinking, and I was like, oh yeah, I work with St. Jude, Abbott, and talking about Teramo, some of the clients over here.
Hmm.
He starts drinking with me, and then 2-3 drinks in, he's like, dude, I'm a terrible person. He's like, the stuff I do for this company is evil. And I was like, all right, man, that conversation kind of took a left turn, but I'm all about juicy
Yeah.
information. Why don't you divulge a little
Exactly.
bit? And he just told
Exactly.
me that like these pharmaceuticals, these like what people have to realize is, and I guess people are not going to realize it, but like these, one thing that makes me sick about America is like these big companies really pretending like they care about you,
Oh,
right?
they don't. Yeah.
Like let's talk about the coronavirus stuff, right?
Sure.
Super deadly virus, 3 months lockdown, end the lockdown. Now everybody's like, go protest, go destroy, go gather in large crowds, like the exact opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. Go do it.
Yeah.
And then people are just so easily manipulated, and they don't care about you. They don't. They don't care about you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that like the whole protest thing, I think a lot of that had to do because of the lockdown, because people had been just shut up for 3 months, and it was a powder keg ready to go. And as soon as anybody lit a match for any freaking reason, it was going to pop off. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And in those moments, yeah, nobody cares about what anybody was saying 2 weeks before about being safe and everything else. Right. Mm-hmm. And you saw that same dynamic where it's like, oh, the protests are totally fine, but oh, you can't hold a rally because everybody's going to die from coronavirus if you do. Right. And it's absolutely just political manipulation. It's absolutely just people trying to run their own scams and run their own schemes. Right. And no corporation actually cares. It's all about sales. It's all about money. And that's the only objective that those companies are out for. But that's okay, because that's really what companies are designed for. The problem comes from people expecting those companies to be like moral, upstanding individuals. That's never going to be the case, right? Mm-hmm. And that kind of comes back to the same sort of atomization and disintegration we've seen, where there is no authority, there is no like trusted people you can look to. So if you don't trust your parents, if you don't trust the government, if you don't trust the universities, if you don't trust anything else, well, what are you going to listen to? The same stuff you're bombarded with day in and day out on everything, on TV, on radio, on social media, on the internet, on all the advertising. Like that's where you get your values and your information from.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And because it's all designed to make you like want things and put itself there as this is the way to feel happy and fulfilled. When you don't feel happy and fulfilled, you start digging into that, right? And you start going down that road because there's nothing else there.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it so funny how we use so much of like dramas and movies as a reference point for real life experience?
Well, that's because human minds are built, they're story machines, right? Where we are pattern matching and story machines. And that's how throughout the majority of history we used to teach people, right? If you look at, say, just take the Bible, for instance, right? It's just a bunch of stories that are supposed to tell you how to live your life. Mm-hmm. It's all parables. You talk about like Aesop's fables, you look at, Plato's Republic, all that kind of stuff. It's all just a massive story. Beowulf, all the old sagas, all that stuff is designed to convey knowledge. And it's something that we as humans are very unique in, is that we have this mechanism to convey knowledge through time and across generations and across cultures using this mechanism of story. And it's an incredibly powerful thing. But if it's being used to play you as opposed to improve you, it's on you to make those distinctions, right? You have to have the discernment. And that's one thing that people are not taught these days, is how to actually look at things from your own value system and decide, is this good? Is this bad? Does this move me forward? Does this not move me forward, right? People aren't looking at that. They're not practicing that discernment. So they're just taking anything in, and whatever makes them feel good in the moment, that's what they go with. And you have to train yourself. You have to do that hard work to be able to resist that and to make your own choices in life.
So I want to ask you personally then.
Sure.
So obviously I tell the guys from age 18, you got to focus on making money, making muscle, learning game until the day you die. And this will make your life exponentially better as you age. And well, let's just talk about that first. I want to talk about what is your personal prescription for the average man who's just frustrated with his sex life, frustrated with life in general, and just wants to get himself sorted out. What would you tell him to do?
So number one, you have to start working out. You have to get your body right. And there's so many reasons for that, not just the attraction cues for women and stuff like that, but just getting in the gym, you're building discipline. You're learning how to push through to plateaus. You're learning how to do hard work now that you're not going to see for weeks or months ahead. You're improving your testosterone. You're improving your capacity to actually work. you're getting your health right and everything else right. It's massive, 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 massive. As far as earning money, you have to have that solid base of support, because if you are constantly stressed about money, if you don't have those resources, then you have no room to maneuver, right? Your options are dictated by other people in your circumstance rather than what you want to do and where you want to go in life. So getting your money sorted, getting that independence is absolutely key, aside from the whole women piece, right? And then you got the learn game thing, right? Because you have to be, humans are social creatures. You have to be able to move throughout the world, and you have to be able to interact with people. And game isn't just about like how to get women. Game is how to be a social creature. Game is how to play that game, how to play those social interactions to get what you want out of life. Mm-hmm. Right? You know, they say game everybody, and it's 100% true. You game in the cashiers, you game your boss, you game your coworkers, you game women you want to get with, you game women you don't want anything to do with. Absolutely.
Did you read Art of Seduction by Robert Greene?
I have.
That's what he says. He's like, you got to seduce everybody. And that's the thing.
Absolutely.
Like a lot of guys, I think one of the biggest misconceptions with our lifestyle is they think that guys like you and I, like, we're just like, okay, like now let me switch it on. Like now I'm a player. Okay. Now I'm not. Like, no, you change. You're in, and that's it. There's no going back. Like, it's not like I'm going to enter player mode now. Like, you're always playing. Like, as we talk about in this webinars, always be pimping, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I've hooked up with chicks that I've sold mattresses to off of Craigslist. You know what I mean? Because you're just always on.
Well, I'll tell you something. It's, I always hated office politics. I just freaking do. I'm the kind of guy that would just like, I'd rather go in, solve interesting problems, do interesting work, walk out at the end of the day and be done with it. I don't want to have to play those stupid games. I really, really don't. But I've also realized, especially over the past couple of years, is when I've been doing work with guys like you, is that you have to play that game in order to be effective. That I've shot myself in the foot dozens and dozens of times because I wasn't willing to play that game, because I didn't learn those skills. And if you can do that, if you can play the office politics game, if you've got the social skills to maneuver in that world, as well as be highly competent at your job, as well as be willing to do hard work, you're Gucci. You've got absolutely no problems in life. And if you can take that approach to the rest of your life, that's your success is unlimited. You know, the sky's the limit at that point, because most people are unwilling to put that combination of traits together. Yeah, one of the guys in there said, you know, hypnosis is very interesting, but kind of scary to me. It's kind of, let's slip back to the hypnosis piece for a minute.
I was scared before I did my first session.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it's, you hear so much stuff about, it's like, oh, I'm going to control your mind. I'm going to put you to sleep and I'm just going to fuck with you and everything else. One of the things about hypnosis, that the biggest misconception in my mind, is the idea that you go to sleep. It's 100% backwards. You're actually more aware and more awake and more in control when you're in hypnosis than in any other time. Because what you're doing is you're putting that subconscious mind in the driver's seat for once.
Yeah.
And your subconscious mind is where your value system is. It's where your conscience is. It's where that, you know, silent observer that they talk about in psychology, that is your judgment and is your discernment and is your moral compass. That's where all that stuff resides. And you're waking it up. You're making it more aware and you're putting it more in control. So the idea that I can play you and make you do things that you don't want to, when the part of you that judges right and wrong is in the driver's seat and has control, it's kind of ridiculous. But, you know, everybody, like you were saying before, everybody gets all their preconceptions from the movies, and it's always, I'm going to hypnotize you and make you do things and you're under my control. It's completely bullshit, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that we were talking earlier about, how everybody's going to therapists these days to solve their problems because there's no other mechanisms. Most people are not fucking broken. They're not. Even people who've been through massive trauma are not broken. They've just built bad habits and unproductive ways of dealing with that trauma that are now hindering them as they move through the world. Because every habit you have, if you read the Atomic Habits, like every habit that you have has a purpose. Everything that you do in life has a purpose. And often it's your mind, your unconscious mind, trying to protect you from shit you've had happen before, right? You go through a traumatic experience, you say, I never want to be through that, go through that again. Your subconscious says, check, gotcha, no problem at all. I will protect you and save you from that ever happening again.
Right.
And then you put all these habits in place to make sure you never go through that experience again. The
I'm not
problem
laughing at
is,
you. I'm laughing at this comment. Some black pill guy says hypnotize John into not being an asshole.
I'm sorry, that's impossible. That's impossible.
It's not gonna happen.
And again, because like that part of your personality, it has a purpose, right? You're not an asshole just because you want to be an asshole. You're doing that on a reason, for a reason, for a purpose, and it's serving you well in some ways. Now, if that got in the way of where you were going in life, well, then it'd be something you wanted to work on, right? But as long as it's helping you get you where you want to go, then it's not actually harming you anyways. But a lot of people will build up all these different habits and all these different ways of being over time in response to stuff that they hadn't really considered. And it's sitting there in their subconscious mind, running on autopilot, and they're trying to figure out, why am I having so many problems, right? Because I had that program in me of being the nice guy, trying to placate, trying to take care of, trying to sacrifice for others. Because when I was growing up, the environment that I was in, walking on eggshells a lot of time, trying to keep people happy so that everything didn't go to shit and everything didn't explode. But once I became an adult and I was no longer in that environment, those habits and those methods of being were holding me back from what I wanted in life. So I had to figure out how to address that. Well, going through talk therapy, you're still working with your conscious mind, and you're not always aware of those things that are going on in your subconscious mind, because that's kind of how the brain works. So you can go to therapy for years and not actually figure out why you're going through these things, right? A good therapist can help you build new mental models. But even then, it's that elephant and rider problem, right? You're still not dealing with the elephant. Hypnosis is that tool that actually gets you down to the level where you can speak elephantese to the elephant to help it understand that you're in a different situation, in a different time, right? Because your subconscious mind doesn't really understand time. It's always back in that moment where shit was going wrong, trying to make sure it doesn't happen again. But with hypnosis, you can actually do phenomenal stuff. Like, you can go back and actually have a discussion with the subconscious mind saying, okay, why is this happening? Why is this pattern here? What problem are you trying to solve? And once you know that, then you can start reframing things. You can say, oh, well, that's not the problem anymore. We've solved that one. We have new resources. We have new ways of dealing with this issue. Like, I can protect myself now. You don't have to go through this old habit and this old pattern of being to solve that anymore. And if you make that connection, then you say, oh, and by the way, I'd really like you to help me get over here. So the way to solve this problem is to help me get where I want. And if you can do that, if you can play that trick, if you can refocus the unconscious mind from trying to solve this old problem to helping you solve this new problem, well, now the elephant is going in the same direction that the rider wants to go, and everything becomes easier, right?
Looks like some of our black pill friends are it's so funny.
Yeah.
They really love me. It's okay, guys. I understand you're jealous of me and my entire army of hot dudes, including Ryan here from hypnosisformen.net. Let me ask you something.
Sure.
As you know, I don't know if you knew this. I'm a high commander of the hot dude army, but I am also the godfather of the black pill, because I slap those black pill guys around, and they are my bitch. Those guys, I slap them.
I've seen.
I slap them like I slap their mothers every night. And we talk about what's going on with those guys and how it's just basically a congregation of extremely low value men. And they say that if you're not white, if you're not 6 foot, if you don't have 6 pack abs, and you don't make more than 6 figures, and you're not ages 20 to 35, you are not going to have sex. You're just not going to have sex, Ryan. It's over. You should fucking kill yourself. It's over. What do you say to that?
Well, number one, that's obviously not true. You can just look around the world and see fat guys who are older who are getting laid. You can see people who are not white getting laid. You can see people who are well under 6 foot. Like, I'm only 5'8.5", and I've gotten plenty. I've gotten a couple standard deviations above the norm for women in my life, right? It's the thing about the black pill and those communities is it's a support group for people who have given up. And
wow, that's nice to put. That's very well put. A support community of people who've given up.
Yeah, because they've hit that point where it's like nothing they've tried works, and they're trying to find an explanation for why it hasn't worked that allows them to be okay with the space that they're in life, right?
Yeah.
And if they can point to external factors outside their control, then at least it's not their fault.
Yeah.
And at least they're not wrong, right?
Yeah.
And it allows them to at least have that small, thin blanket of comfort, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of understand that. Now, that's not necessarily the most optimal way to solve that problem. You know, nihilism is never the answer if you actually want to make progress in life. But from a just protecting yourself from not going insane standpoint,
Yep.
that's sometimes enough, right? So you're just having that support group of people saying, yes, you're not wrong. Yes, you're it's not your fault that you can't get the things you want in life because you're just cursed or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that you have to understand about the human mind is that its job is not to make you happy. Your mind is not there to make you happy.
It's
as
not.
long as you're still breathing, it has done its job. Its job is to help you survive, not thrive, right?
Yep.
And so if you can do anything to protect your ego, to just keep you breathing, even if it doesn't make you happy, even if it doesn't improve your lot in life, even if it doesn't get you what you want, that's enough for the brain to keep going, right? So that's the solution it's going to latch onto, because that's the easiest thing to do. It's a lot easier to say it's not your fault. It's a lot easier to go around a crowd that says it's not your fault, it's everybody else, than it is to actually do the hard work, to figure out what's going on, to go into that unconscious mind and figure out what's going wrong, right? To see a therapist, to get new mental models, to get a coach to actually do better, to be around a group of people who are going to kick your ass and make you do hard work and make you do hard things.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much easier to say, oh, it's not my fault, and to do that little ego protective thing and get around a community that does that same ego protective thing and will reinforce that belief for you that it's not your fault and you don't have to do any work because there's nothing you can do. Because at least then you're still breathing. This will get you what you want in life. This will keep you breathing.
Yeah.
This is what you should do, but this is often enough, and this is what people will settle for.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is with the brain and self-preservation, like it's not in your best interest as it regards to your brain to even go to the gym and lift weights. Your brain's like, no, just lay down, have sex, store some fat, and like stay alive.
Exactly. As long as you're still breathing, it's done its job. And the less work that it can get you to do that, the better. But the thing is, if you build the mental model, if you build those unconscious processes and you build an identity around, I'm a guy who is a high value man who has this shit on lock, and this is part of who I am, this is what I do. If you build that identity, well, then it's easy to go to the gym because that's the guy you are.
Yeah.
Right. Hypnosis can help you do that. Habits can help you do that. You know, there's all kinds of different mechanisms. Getting around groups of guys who are doing the work will help you do that, because that helps you internalize that identity, because your world outside you is reflecting back to you that that's what you should be doing. That's why it's so important to get in with groups like Body Language Mastery or Rich's group or Brian's crew or anybody else who are doing work and improving themselves, because the things you're seeing around you, the things you're seeing in the world reflected back to you, are guys who are doing the work, getting results, and having amazing lives because of it.
Yeah. I mean, what's funny is that I just have no empathy for guys who believe that in 2020 you're just doomed financially. There's no way to come up financially. There's no way to do anything but to succeed, right? I mean, it's just like this. It's a really the black pill, right? The part of the internet that I'm the godfather of. I own those losers. They're all my property, actually. And with those black pill losers, because that's what they are. They sit around and they jerk off to like men's photos all day and like, look at this guy's jawline and look, oh my god, he's such a handsome guy. Like I could never get laid. I mean, I don't sit around looking at dudes' photos all day, so I can only imagine.
Well, we do in pandemic, but that's because we're trying to help guys find the right ones to use. But yeah.
So
but no, it's true. Like, part of it is that they've been sold a bill of goods, right? They've been sold this old model of, you get the job, you get the girl, like you get the job, you all that sort of stuff, right?
Yes.
And because that lie serves so many interests, around the world, as far as like keeping you numb, keeping you happy, keeping you just like spinning your wheels, keeping you a slave to the corporate machine and all that jazz, right? It's worth it for them to perpetuate that. So you have to see behind the lies to realize, okay, I know this is a story I was told. I know this
Yeah.
is the way that the world worked when my parents were growing up, right? That's not how the world is.
Yes.
And you have to deal with the world as it is rather than how you wish it would be. And that's part of the problem with guys in the black pill, and part of these problems with guys who want to, like, the trad con types who want to turn back time. It's like, yes, the world may have worked different back then, but we don't live in that world. The world is different. The world has changed, and you're not going to turn back the clock. So you have to deal with things as they are.
Yeah.
But as soon as you take that step of saying, okay, this is how it is, then you become like those highly competitive gaming players, right? You can actually win. You can actually
Yeah.
succeed. You actually build the world you want to build and have the things in life you want to have
Yeah.
because you're dealing with reality for once, as opposed to
Yes.
this creative fantasy that you're building up in your mind of how everybody else should work.
Dude, and
Because
like,
nobody else has to play by your rules. Nobody else has to play by the way you want things to work. You have to meet them where they're at. You got to meet the world where it's at.
let's talk about that, right? Like,
Yeah.
have you ever had perfect six-pack abs and been completely shredded in life?
Fuck, never, ever.
How many girls have
Even
you
at
had
my
sex
best.
with?
75.
There you go. And you're 43, so you must be having sex
44,
with
yeah.
44. You must be having sex with women exclusively in wheelchairs at this point, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. No, completely not.
Yeah.
Completely not. No.
Aren't you dating
The
two
girl that I've
girls in
been,
their 20s right now?
no, I'm just seeing one girl right now. But we started seeing each other, God, last November. She's 22, 23
Mhm.
years old. She turned 23, so she's like half
Mhm.
my age. But
Mhm.
we've been together for, like, God, almost 8 months now.
Mhm. Is that hot Indian girl?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, she's pretty hot, man.
She's fucking
That
gorgeous.
and then that's what I'm talking about. It's funny because I was on. I don't know if you watched me on John from Bulldog Mindsets
Hmm.
show recently when we talked to this
That was a
black
good
pill
one.
guy, and I asked him this, right, and it's just laughable at this point because if I ask you, I know the answer. But I asked this guy, and I kind of knew the answer was coming as well. I said, "So, what do you want from women?" He's like, "I just want a relationship and love." I was like, "Oh my god."
Well,
I
here's
was
the
like,
thing. Like,
I was like, "All right, John. I'm sorry, I got to do this on your stream." But
well, the thing is, like, one thing that's one thing that I find is always really interesting is the fact that a lot of the really heavy hitters in this sphere, like Rich and Rollo and Ryan,
Mhm,
they're all in long-term relationships. Rollo's been married for 20 plus years. Ryan's
mhm,
been with his girl for like 11 years. Rich has been with his girl for several years, right? And you look at that, and there's women can bring a lot of value to your life. The
yes,
problem is that most women these days are not taught how to do that. It's not a
yeah,
priority for them to learn how to do that.
mhm,
So it's very difficult to find that, right?
mhm,
Now, a woman who finds you really, really attractive, wants to be in your life and wants to add value, she's more than willing to learn.
yeah,
9 times out of 10, if they really think that you are the best that they can get, or if you're really showing them that you're a high value man that has this shit on lock, they are more than willing to learn whatever they need to
they
make you happy and help you out, right?
exactly, they want to please you.
They do. They do. God, one of the things about, like, the girl I'm seeing, she's always hated guys her age because they're immature. They don't bring anything to the table. They're fucking wishy-washy. They have no drive. They have no dominance. They have no ability to lead. So she's always liked older men because they know how to lead. They know what they want out of life. They have goals. They're driven. They're doing shit. They have their life on lock. And as an older man, as a guy in my 40s, it's been absolutely astounding to me how easy it is to go on dates with women that are in their early 20s, early to mid 20s, compared to women who are in their 30s and 40s.
And you
Because
scooped
when
this
you were in
girl
the,
you're dating right after Body Language Mastery, after you signed
oh
up. It
yeah,
was literally 1 month after, right?
yes, exactly, exactly. And, like, absolutely, like, I have to credit you guys for getting me in the right mindset and getting me in the right place and doing the work with Ryan Fowler, doing the hypnosis, clearing out all that crap, like unfucking my style, getting good photos, working with extra guac up in Philly to get good photos, just doing the work. And all of a sudden everything changes. It's
Yeah.
amazing what happens when you start actually putting forth the effort in a focused, disciplined way,
Yes.
doing the work, going in, unfucking your mind, unfucking all those old mental models, getting those bad habits out of the way. It's amazing how quickly you can make progress. My
Thank you
life is
so
massively different now than it was back then.
Thank you so much to Roflex with the $10 super chat. Looking jacked as fuck, dude. Says,
Yes, he
how can you
does.
not love being a man? Money, muscles, mind, and MMA. Keep it going. Thank you so much, Roflex. I
God,
appreciate that.
so true. Oh man, the thing,
Could
one
you
thing that should
imagine?
bring.
Could you imagine being a woman, like being able to deadlift like
Nah.
135 pounds?
Well, I'll tell you, one thing that he brings up is that whole MMA thing, right? One of the things I have always loved about being in martial arts that I miss so much right now is that conflict, being able to like just get in the moment and lose yourself in the moment in that struggle with another guy who's absolutely trying to murder you in the moment,
Yes.
knowing that as soon as you're done, you're gonna like freaking bro hug it out and go have beers.
Yep.
Being able to like let that primal masculine, violent, aggressive side of yourself out, just like let that fucker run, is something you don't get to have these days. And it is such a vital part of being a man.
You know,
You
I've been
really
thinking.
have to be comfortable with conflict and violence and aggression. You have to find that way to do that.
I've been thinking. I actually haven't even told Charlie yet, but I've been thinking about moving the Tokyo Crypto Show 1 hour forward because that's my Wednesday night, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
one night they have full contact but not full power sparring at my MMA gym.
Oh,
And
yes. Make it
I
happen.
mean, I'm potentially a little overzealous, but wrestled in high school. I have good ground control. I have good top
Yeah.
game, and I sparred a couple people just in kickboxing a couple months ago before the Corona nonsense, and then you know, in a competitive space where everything's done correctly, it's very therapeutic to punch somebody in
Oh
the
my God.
face. It really
I'll tell
is.
you, when I was growing up, I was in karate classes, and there were whenever we do sparring classes, we usually do like half an hour drill and like 20 minutes of sparring at the end, right? You just do
Mhm.
2 lines, a couple minutes, and you just rotate. And there were
Mhm.
3 or 4 guys in the class where you just knew that it was okay to go hard. So you line up against them, and they look at you, and you look at them, and you nod at them, and they nod at you, and you just try to fucking murder each other
Yep.
because you knew that they were accepting of the fact that you were going to go hard, and they wanted that because when you are able to push yourself and play at that edge where you're going all out within a controlled environment, man, God, it's so freeing. It is so
Yeah.
primal, so amazing.
It
Unfortunately,
is.
I want to do that full contact sparring, but I've already had a couple of concussions, and I'm like, I don't need a third. That's not going to be
Yeah.
good for me,
No,
and I
it's full.
fucking miss it.
Yeah, it's full contact, but it's not full power. So
Right.
yeah, and honestly, I will be wearing headgear and shin
Oh yeah,
guards and
mouthpiece and all
obviously
that.
gloves and definitely mouthpiece. I'm not trying to lose this beautiful smile. Uh,
Yeah. Work too hard for that one. Yeah.
no, no, sir, not on this lifetime.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it is fun. And I think every man, like for example, right? Let's talk about the number one bitch in my Black Pill Kingdom, MGTOW dictionary, right? I could tell this
Mhm.
guy's never been punched in the face,
Oh yeah.
right? Because people who act like that, there's a certain level of humility you have when you have, you've seen the spider web white flashlight. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
And you
Yeah.
get punched in the eye and you're like, and you see like a white flash,
Boom.
and you see all your veins, and you're like, Jesus Christ. And and when you get hit in the face and then you like start tasting something in the back of your mouth and you spit and you're
Oh
like, oh
yeah.
God, I'm bleeding. Like, my nose is bleeding and I'm drinking so much blood right
Oh
now.
yeah.
But it's there's something like that. I'm telling you, I'm getting to the Tyler Durden stage in my life. Like, I don't care about anything. I just want to fucking fight.
Well, I'll tell
It's a
you, there's when you actually have to deal with immediate consequences to your actions in the real world, everything
Mhm.
changes about your worldview, right?
Yeah.
Part of the reason why all these internet tough guys come around is because there's no immediate consequence to their action. There's no
Mhm.
pushback. They can
I
always
know.
just walk away and say, oh, well, blah, 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 come up with 87 excuses or like, oh, yeah, I totally owned him, whatever,
Mhm.
because there's no actual consequences. There's no real feedback,
Mhm.
right? It's all just virtual. It's all in their head. It's all just words. And
Mhm.
until you are in a space and time where you're getting those immediate consequences to your actions in real time, in reality, that you cannot fucking deny,
Yeah.
once you get in a space where you're doing that, you get to a point where you're not satisfied with the virtual anymore. You
Yeah.
have to do the real thing. You have to have the real thing.
There's this guy in his late 40s, and when you fight, some guys just have your fucking card, and this
Oh yeah.
guy, he beats me every single fucking time, and
And it's
it's
fucking
so.
frustrating, isn't it?
Oh, dude, I have like terrible visions of what I want to do to him, and it's just like, but I think learning to fight and you were in the Marine Corps. Did they have McMAP with the Marine Corps martial arts program when you went through?
Back in sort of towards the later stages of when I was in the last year or two, but yeah, we do sparring and everything else, and that was a lot of fun. Love that. Like I was linguist, I wasn't infantry or anything. I was linguist, so it was mostly mental work, right? But
Were you an officer or enlisted?
Enlisted, always enlisted.
Okay.
Yeah, but even then, you still have to deal with the real world. Even if you're a pogue, right? Even if you're not infantry, you still have to go on like 13-mile hikes with 35-pound pack and all your gear and shit like that, and it's just miserable. And it's just like, okay, this is life, and you have to make it through. You have to go through it, right? And there's absolutely nothing you can do to make it any less of a suck. So you have to deal with the suck and the pain.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, they can, like, okay, let's be honest about these black pill losers, right? They don't want to deal with the fact that they are losers. And so the entire world is the problem, not them. The entire world. Okay. That's the great thing about martial arts, right? And honestly, it's a great thing about, personally, I'm a big fan of competitive online gaming as well. When you lose, you have to be a man and know it's 100% your fault. You have to come to the terms with, I am not good enough. There are people above me. There are levels above me. Like when I play Soul Calibur 6, some Korean people just wipe the fucking floor with me. I'm such a stubborn donkey though that like I'll go 0-26 and I'll finally get one over on the guy and I'll be like, fuck you, no rematch, I'm out. And like, I got mine.
Oh no, I totally fucking get that. I totally get that. Those times when you're just banging your head against the wall trying to figure it out, and you finally break through, and you're like, yes, I win. And it's like at that point, it's the best goddamn feeling in the world. But people aren't willing to put in the effort. People aren't willing to acknowledge the fact that they've hit that point where they can't break through, where somebody's better than them. They are so unwilling to face reality, and it's a shame. It's a shame. But that's okay, because it just means that there is more space for guys like you and me and the guys who are watching this channel, guys who will sign up for Body Language Mastery, guys who will do the work, who will sit down and do the hypnosis sessions, who will unfuck themselves mentally as well as physically. The world's your oyster, because there are so few of us out there that it doesn't take much to help you rise above the rest. You know what I mean? And as soon as you do, it's an amazing space.
Yeah.
All kinds of opportunities present themselves that never would otherwise.
It's funny is the Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. I'm not sure if you read that, but have you read it?
I haven't yet. It's on my list of things to do. I'll go ahead and use my Audible credit for that one, since you used it for Atomic Habits.
But with that book, it talks about the compounding effect of being consistent with little actions, and my real life application of that is doing this show minimum 5 days a week since January 21st, 2019. Obviously I take times off because quite honestly, streaming can burn you out. The power of just positive momentum. I mean, once you get that momentum train going and you don't turn off the brakes, I mean, there literally is almost nothing that can stop you. And the compounding benefits. But these, like I said, a lot of guys, they're just so caught up in their heads. And I think a big part of it too is like the feminization of the American values and the single mother households. All this shit can fuck with your head and really screw with the software that'll allow you to take off in the world. But once you get that self sorted out through hypnosis, through discipline, through accountability, through a group of men, I mean, I say it all the time, and you're a good old Christian boy. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. They're like literally, there's money literally floating through the air right now. Like there's billions of dollars being transacted. If you could have 0.5% of that money, you are set
Huge.
for life. You literally just
Absolutely.
have to sit around and wait to die. Like that's like the pinnacle of your life once you're financially sorted out. And again, with if you're watching YouTube, if you're watching this right now, you have the ability to change your life. But people don't think it's possible, or they don't take action. Like, taking action
Hmm.
is the biggest thing you can do. Start something, buy that course, binge watch that YouTube channel, go take $1, go to the dollar store, take
Yeah.
$2, buy a pen and buy a notebook, and just take notes until your hands are cramped up, and then read the notes again, and then do it over again, then apply the knowledge
Yeah,
towards
the
something
thing
that'll
is you
make you
have to
money.
apply it. You absolutely have to freaking take action. Because
Yes.
one of the biggest pieces is that you can talk until you're blue in the face. You can watch YouTube videos until your eyes bleed. But until you actually do something, none of it's going to stick. Your subconscious mind does not pay attention to words,
Mm-hmm.
does not pay attention to words. Like, a lot of people use affirmations but never actually do anything with it. That doesn't stick. But
Mm-hmm.
if you do the affirmations and you actually take action, that will change your identity, because every time you do that, take actions in line with what you say you want to be, that's a vote in favor of that identity, and you get enough votes piled up that sticks in your subconscious mind. You now have a new identity. You are now a man of action. You are now a runner. You are now an athlete. You
Mm-hmm.
are now a business person. You are now an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
because you've taken those actions. You put those votes in the box that says, I am this person.
Yes. Look at this. What do you say to this here? He says, Daniel Mendez says, for me, the real problem is the voices inside, or resistance, even when doing the work.
Oh, that's exactly what hypnosis is for, because those voices in your head, those things that are holding you back, that's all that accumulated habits, and all those voices says, if you look at it like, okay, I've got identity, this is who I've been, and this is who I want to be. This has 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of votes and events to back it up as this is reality. This identity of who you want to be is fantasy. So when you're starting to take action, it's kind of like a scale, right? You've got all this weight over on who you were rather than who you want to be. But with hypnosis, you can actually go in, you can say, okay, yeah, I know this is who I was, but that's not where we're going. And oh, by the way, here's all the ways where this thing that I want to be, whether that's an athlete or productive or a entrepreneur or whatever it happens to be, just a hot dude getting awesome results in life, this is who I've been all along.
Mm-hmm.
I just had some obstacles to overcome. Right. And with hypnosis, you can actually go in, you can reframe that. So those voices, instead of holding you back, help you move forward.
Yeah.
Right. That's what we talked about with clearing out the trauma of the things that says, I'm not good enough. I'm not bad. I'm broken. I can't connect. You can actually fix that. You can go through and you can reframe that story.
Mm-hmm.
You can go from being a guy who never puts forth enough effort to being the guy that says, it's okay that I didn't get there today, because I know that this is part of that compounding effect. And I'm not going to see results for 3 months. And that's okay, because I'm just going to do the work for 3 months and I'll get there.
Yep.
And you can actually go through and change all that stuff on your subconscious level through things like hypnosis. That's what that tool is there for. And it's amazing how quickly things can change once you do. Imagine how easier it would be if, instead of having that voice in your back of your head saying, just give up, you have that voice in the back of your head that says, just keep going.
Yeah.
Instead of having that voice in the back of your head that says, you're not enough, don't bother trying, saying, this is your right. This is what you're here for. This is what you're due.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge, the shifts that you can make and how quickly they can happen. Just getting yourself out of your own way, removing the roadblocks, getting yourself on your own side to where you're going is probably one of the fastest ways to help you make progress. There's a psychologist I like. His name is Brett Steenbarger. He works with like Wall Street traders, right? And he's got this saying. It says that today's problems are caused by yesterday's solutions,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the reason you're not making progress today is because of a problem you had, in a solution that you have to a problem you had in the past.
Mm-hmm.
All you need to do is flip that switch so that this isn't in the way anymore, and come up with a new solution and a new way of going about things today, and you'll get to where you're going. And that's what hypnosis is for.
When I did my session with Ryan Fowler
Mhm.
is my mental mentor.
Yep.
And I had one thing that I had last year and you, well, you know about this too, because we talked about
Mhm.
in Rich's group, is I had the problem with the poverty mindset.
Oh yeah.
And I was, pretty transparent about how I was suffering with that, just thinking like inevitable financial doom is just around the corner. Doom in
Oh yeah.
itself is around the corner. And I was living in this state of anxiety. I was very, obviously high functioning man, channeled that
Yeah.
anxiety into exercising, my sales career, womanizing, all that stuff, pizza. And the thing is, once you are able to get rid of that bad software in
Mhm.
your hardware up here, which is the actual physical material that is your brain, um the there's it's endless, the opportunities that you can have. Like, I feel
Well, I'll tell you a
unstoppable right
story.
now.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you a story. This is I know we're running a little bit short on time because you got another show to go to, so I'll leave
You're
it.
good, don't worry.
Leave this
i'm
last one.
i'm high commander of the hot dude army. I do what I want.
You can reschedule whatever you want. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was working with this one client, and the thing that you brought up about success was really interesting. So this client of mine had a lot of issues with success. Right? They
Mhm.
wanted to build a business, they wanted to be successful, but they were always getting in their own way.
Yeah.
So we did some work, we did some digging, we found out that it came from two different related pieces. One was that her family was very poor growing up, and they resented the shit out of rich people. And she
Wow.
never had that good. She never had that good connection, that good relationship with her family. She's always looking for her family's love. So part of her was in a situation where if I'm successful, then my family will hate me even more, and I'll never have that love and acceptance that I wanted.
Mhm.
The other piece was that she had shoplifted some stuff from a store, and her dad made her go back and return it. And she had this complex where the guy that the store she sold it from is like, oh, I'm living on the shoestring and everything else, and you're fucking killing me, blah, blah, blah. So she took that to be, if she's successful, then people will take from her and she'll be vulnerable.
Wow.
And so the way to solve these two problems of getting love and acceptance from her family as well as not being vulnerable is you're not successful. So anytime she's successful, she'd sabotage herself so that she could have that possibility of being accepted and she wouldn't be vulnerable. Well, you can go back through and you can do a lot of reframing there, right? And so essentially
Mhm.
what we did was we said, hey, you don't need the love from your family because you can be that source of validation and love for yourself. And you already don't want it from them. You've already moved on. So you can let that go. And oh, by the way to be safe and secure is to have a solid foundation and to be able to give from a position of strength. So you have to be successful to be secure and safe, right? Safe isn't being small, safe is being strong and secure and having abundance and having that solid foundation, right? And as soon as you flip that script, as soon as you reframe that, well, now all those things about being loved and accepted and being safe and secure are now driving her towards being successful and building that business and having those things in her life, right?
Mhm.
And that's what I'm talking about when you're talking about reframing and rewriting and reprogramming those old habits.
Yeah.
Those habits existed to keep her safe and to get her love and acceptance, right? That's what they were trying to do. Of course, they're getting in the way of what she wants to be now. But if you can now point them in that new direction, if you can get the elephant heading in that direction that your conscious mind wants, now everything's working together. And that becomes a lot easier.
How many sessions did you do with her?
Just one,
Wow. And how long was the session?
about an hour and a half. Most of my sessions are about an hour to an hour and a half, depending. Um, but in that time, we can usually get to the root of whatever problem that you have,
Mhm.
figure out why it's there, and get you a new solution. Now, a lot of times what will happen is somebody will come into me with one problem, and we'll do some serious work and come up with a solution to that. But in the process, afterwards, what will happen is like your unconscious mind say, "Okay, cool. So we fix that problem. Great. Now there's this one and this one and this one and this one and this one we need to work on."
Yeah.
So once you start clearing out some baggage, it's like, okay, now cool. I can now work on the next set and work on
Yep.
the next issue and work on the next issue, right?
Yeah.
And depending upon the problems that you're coming in with, maybe this is something where you've got to do that trauma clearing, right? Where you need to unload that mental baggage and that emotional baggage. Maybe it's something where it's just a bunch of habits that you've gotten built up in your mind that are holding you back. Now you now need a different solution or a different framework to help you move forward, right?
Right.
But depending upon the problem you have, it doesn't take very long. And
Yeah.
one other thing I would say is that getting back to the whole discussion earlier about working with therapists and working with medications and stuff like that is if you are already working with a therapist or if you are on some kind of medication, we can still work together, right? We can still make progress. There's still things we can do. It may or may not be as effective. Like if you're on drugs that are messing with your emotions, if you're on antipsychotic medication, for example, like that's going to get in the way of some things. But that doesn't mean we can't do work, and it doesn't mean we can't make progress. What I need from you is to be able to have a referral from your doctor that says it's okay for us to work together. Because quite frankly, if you've got issues like schizophrenia or things like that, or you're really a mess, doing hypnosis is not the smartest thing. But as long as we can get the clearance from your doctor or whoever you're working with to do the work, then we can still do the work. I've worked with guys who are on antidepressants. I've worked with guys who are on antipsychotic medications. And we've been able to make some serious changes and really create some space for them to make some progress. Is it as effective as if they weren't on that stuff? Yeah, probably. But at the same time, you have to begin where you're at. So no matter where you're at, no matter what your situation is, if you're getting help, if you're on things like that, it's not a barrier. It just means we need to check a few extra boxes, and maybe we need to do a bit more work. But maybe, just maybe, doing the work with hypnosis gives you enough space that you can get off those medications and then really get to where you're at. Right. If you're on antipsychotics, like that's a lifelong thing. You don't fuck with that. Right. But if you're on antidepressants, that maybe is a different story. Right.
Yeah.
If you don't actually have chemical imbalances, if it's just a crutch that you're using to get over the moment, maybe we can help you. So that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I do believe that certain drugs have their place in assisting people who might have some trauma, for sure. But I also believe that it is it's overblown, the actual need for it. You know what I mean? I definitely believe there's a certain niche of people that need it, but I also believe that there are more people on these drugs that think they need it, but the reality is they're just being blanket prescription by a doctor who, quite frankly, doesn't give a shit about them, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So 2 questions in the chat that I wanted to see that I saw in there. I just want to go ahead and respond to real fast. Eric Von Wendell says, does Hypnosis for Men have a YouTube channel? Not yet. It's on the agenda. I've been trying to get this thing set up, and I've actually been helping a lot of men and getting my process down. That's where my focus has been. And Daniel Mendez says, Ryan, have you done hypnosis on yourself? Yes. Self-hypnosis is actually very easy to do. From a personal standpoint, there's a part of me that doesn't believe the things I tell myself. So it's actually easier for me to have other people do the work than try and do it for myself. But that's just a personal block, and it's something I'm working on, right? One of the things is that, like, with affirmations have never really worked for me, because I can sit there and say, oh, you're going to be a strong athletic guy, and the voice inside is saying bullshit. It's like, oh, you're going to be really, really successful. Bullshit. You know? So for me, it's more difficult for me to talk to myself about this sort of thing. It's much easier for me to work with somebody else to do that, because hearing it from the outside has more power for me, right? But everybody's different. If you're the kind of guy that actually makes progress on their own and does that sort of thing, then self-hypnosis can actually be really, really powerful. It can be an incredibly powerful tool, and it's actually very, very easy to learn.
I think that a lot of people will say that, you know, this sounds like some new age garbage, but you know, again, I mean, I have no incentive for anybody who goes through your services, but I'll just say this, like, look at people who have used hypnosis in their life, right? One of my favorite ones is Kobe Bryant, and you know, one of the greatest basketball players that has ever lived. And when you do these sessions, you're going to do the session. First thing I notice is you're going to have an incredible night of sleep after it.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like somebody just signed up for Body Language Mastery. Congratulations to, let's see who it is, Mr. Mario M. Thank you so much for signing up with Body Language Mastery. Gonna have a good time talking to you. But I had a credible night of sleep after my first session, very vivid dreams. And then the next couple of days, you're gonna feel like light. You're gonna feel like something's gotten taken off your shoulders, and you're gonna be like kind of like if you're walking with weights, you take the weights off and you're like, wow, Jesus, I'm walking so fast. What's going on
Oh
here?
yeah, it's
And
amazing.
you'll start noticing just an overall clarity and happiness to your life. This is not some new age bullshit. This is the front of
That's
this is a lot, especially with American households being so chaotic, non-traditional, and there's just a lot of anti-family things. Like when you grow up in your family, your house is supposed to be your safe space. Your house is supposed to be
yeah.
where you grow up and feel safe and happy, and you develop your self-esteem that allows you to go out into the world and be a contributing member of society. And a lot of people are forsake or they're not allowed that because of such situations, single mothers, divorce, so many things that are just aimed to tearing up the family in America.
Oh yeah.
But once you do these sessions, and it only takes one, honestly, for me, I worked with Ryan Fowler and I did one session and I could not believe the results. So I did like 2 or 3 more. I've only done like 2 to 4 sessions. No, I've done like at least, I think 3 to 4 sessions with Ryan Fowler over the last year and a half. And I
Hmm.
recently did one a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and I didn't realize I had so much like pent up hate for this aunt that abused me when I was little. And then we
Oh
talked
yeah.
about it, and it's funny, like I didn't even realize I had that hate, and I was carrying it with you. And the thing is, when you carry around this hate for people who fucked you up in life, and that it's in forms of emotional trauma in your life, what Ryan told me was such powerful words. And believe me, I love to hold a grudge. But he said that um, when you
Is that
do that
drinking
kind of,
poison?
yeah, when you do that kind of stuff, holding a grudge and hating other people and stuff, it's like you drink the poison and you hope the other person dies. Like that's what
Oh
MGTOW
yeah.
Dictionary is doing with me. He's drinking poison every day, hoping I'm going to die, but he's just giving me free publicity and making me even more awesome. So I got to say thank you to the loser, actually. But
I'll tell you.
that whole sphere of people, if you go and talk with them, you can pinpoint that there's a lot of mental trauma going on with
Oh
them, and
sure,
they
sure.
they don't even realize it.
Well, I'll tell you, getting back to the whole new age thing, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get in hypnosis and actually start up this service. If you go to my website, hypnosisformen.net, like it's not new agey at all. These are techniques that are designed to actually get in and fix you on the lowest level, right? On that emotional, instinctive level, right? A lot of the new agey stuff, they're taking valid techniques and valid stuff, and then they're extrapolating it to the woo-woo side, right? This is the whole like the secret thing. There's wonderful things about the positive power of positive thinking, of being
Yes.
optimistic, about having affirmations.
Yes.
But if you assume that that's all you have to do in order for the universe to give you what you want, that's the bullshit leap, right? The new age portion of all this stuff is if I just do this one hack, then I don't actually have to do the work. That's not how this works, right?
Nope.
With hypnosis, I can get you out of your own way. I can get all the parts of you moving in the same direction, but you still have to take action. I can't do stuff for you. I can make it a lot easier for you to do the things you need to do to get to where you want in life. I can clear out a lot of the baggage. I can take the anchors off, right? I can make it a lot easier for you to move, but you still have to do that work. You still have to do that effort, make that effort, right?
Mhm.
But hypnosis, man, if you can get out of your own fucking way, if you can dump a lot of that emotional load, if you can remove all those things that are holding you back, everything becomes easier. Everything becomes easier.
This is Ryan from hypnosisformen.net. He is another general in the Hot Dude Army. Some guys are liking your voice. They're feeling
Thank you much.
great about it. I'm going to ask. Griffin says, can Ryan do the session online? He exclusively does them online.
Yes.
And so,
If you
guys,
go to my website, there's 2 buttons. You can, if you want to have a conversation about how this might help you, there's a button to book a call, 15 minutes, talk about whatever we need to. There's also a button where you can go ahead and book a session online as well. I usually block out about 2 hours so that we've got plenty of time. You can just go ahead and block that out, schedule that through Calendly, and it'll get you exactly what you need. We'll be in touch.
Yep. And this is another man who will be assisting everybody in the webinars for 9 weeks in body language
Yep.
mastery. So, guys, enrollment closes tomorrow night at midnight. You are going to miss out if you do not take action today. You're going to miss the 2 full the full length courses explaining female body language to help you understand if a woman is sexually interested in you or not. You're going to miss out on 9 weeks of coaching where we go 4 hours a day in 3-week increments at a time.
At least 4 hours a day.
At least 4 hours a day. I say that to cover my bases, but usually they run over. You're gonna miss out on the men's only Facebook group. Okay, this opportunity is gonna be gone, and I just added a brand new bonus. You're gonna miss out on the 24/7, 365 access to me and my team through the Telegram encrypted chat group. We have a text message chat group, totally secure. Your identity, everything will be protected in there. It's encrypted. You do not want to miss out on this. Time is running out. Go to modernlifedating.com/body language. Sign up today. Let's change your life. And we're going to continue. We've got 2 more generals because in Generals June, I'm live streaming every single day in the month of June, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow, we are having a red-pilled porn star who, I'm telling you, this guy is a sex expert. He has taken my sex game to a whole new level. If you do not watch tomorrow's episode, you are going to be left behind. He is also another general in the Hot Dude Army. This is the opportunity to change your life. modernlifedating.com/body language, and we will see you on the flip side. Have a wonderful day, guys. Make money, make muscles, learn game, and peace out.
Cheers.